guys, welcome back to day 5 of Inktober. This is the one I've been dreading. I said, I think in the first or second video that the first Inktober piece that I did, the skeletons going through TSA, that was probably like the most intensive one that I was going to have to do, except for maybe one other. This is the other one. This is also the idea I had that kind of sparked the whole theme for this year's Inktober. And this is swamp monsters sightseeing in a city on a double-decker bus that is modified to be an aquarium. I don't quite remember where I came up with this idea, but I remember thinking it up late last year and thinking it would be really cute if I could work this into a series. And then it kind of snowballed from there into this year's Inktober theme. And the reason that I'm so scared of this one is two things. One, I have to draw a car. I've drawn cars actually quite a few times before. I don't think I've ever posted any of them because they're not good, but it doesn't make them any easier. Cars are so difficult to draw. And then the second reason I'm a bit scared of this one is because even though there's a lot going on in the scene, the characters themselves are very small, and I'm very concerned that they're not going to come across quite as interesting as the rest of the pieces. And actually, I have a third reason for being nervous of this one. Because these are sea creatures in like a modified aquarium, I wanted to try and give the background a little bit of a fisheye effect, which if you don't know what that is, a fisheye is a type of lens that kind of distorts the image of what you're seeing, so things kind of look like they're bubbling out and around you. I'll try and post like a sample picture of what I mean. I don't want to go too extreme with it. I just especially want the buildings in the background to kind of have that curve to them. But I am fresh off of the last Inktober, the Headless Horseman. I just finished that one last night, so I am ready to dive into another one. So let's go ahead and get started. I've been debating whether or not I want to use the ruler, and I think I'm just gonna leave it aside for now for two reasons. One, because I've noticed every time I use the ruler, I kind of get a little too into using it. Like I get a little too obsessed with it, and I feel like that kind of stifles my creative freedom a little bit. So I'm just gonna start by kind of sketching out some shapes here. Laying down the street first. I wanted to do a couple sidewalk, and I really want to keep in mind for this one, I want to keep the bus as big as possible. Even though I've got all these buildings in the background that I want to get in there, I learned from my last piece that if I make the vehicle too small, then the creatures that are inside the vehicle are going to be barely noticeable. So I want to make sure that I keep the bus very big on this one. I'm gonna kind of sketch in the buildings here with that fisheye effect. I'm a little scared these might be curving too much. I've done this effect before, but I think I'm still a little too new at it to be able to judge my previous attempts. I thought they looked really good, but it's one of those things that I feel like I'm going to look back on in a few years and realize that the effect I was attempting does not look as good as I thought it did. So the fisheye is mainly going to be going this way because I don't want to have to try and contend with like a full fisheye. I think that's going to be a bit of a steep ask when it comes to my skill level. So we're just going to do a one-way fisheye as if we were looking onto a bit of a curved screen. This is feeling very steep and it's kind of scaring me a little bit. I do want to add in the details to the buildings now before I get the bus in there. Just kind of try and straighten these out a little bit. I did want to talk about, while it's on my mind though, I finished editing the Headless Horseman Inktober piece, the one previous to this one. I finished that late last night, and even though I tried so hard to shorten down that video, it is shorter than the previous 3, I'll give it that. The previous 3 all hit the 45-minute mark. This one I think was just under 30 minutes. So even though it is shorter, it did take me far too long to edit. So I'm going to try as hard as I can with this one to not babble as much, and then hopefully that'll be less footage that I'll have to deal with when it comes time to editing. I think that's fun. I think it's kind of like a fun whimsical effect. You can definitely tell the buildings are going to be like curving at an angle. I don't know yet if it's going to give off fisheye, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for. All right, I've got the background pretty much finished here. I left this blank space in the middle because the bus is going to be taking up most of the picture anyway. So I didn't really feel the need to put a lot of details in there if I was just going to cover it with the aquarium bus. Speaking of which, that is the next step, to draw the bus in here. And I said earlier, I want to be really careful with making sure that it's nice and big enough to be able to see the characters inside the bus. So I kind of want to just move this sidewalk over a little bit, give it a little more street room. Maybe do the same on this side. All right, and I think I kind of put in the thumbnail here when I was sketching this. I had the bus a little too small and a little too far to the left side of the paper, so I just sketched in a new edge of the paper here. And that's why the sidewalk is so far off to the corner. And I removed this fence is because I kind of shrank the whole paper down from the thumbnail. So if I were to look at just the shrunken down part, the bus actually takes up the majority of the page. So I'm actually gonna go maybe from about here. I just want to start by outlining the area where the bus is going to be taking up space. Just kind of figuring out where the vehicle is going to be. I think that's pretty good. The proportions on this piece are going to be really out of whack, to be honest, from the size of the buildings to the size of the characters inside the bus to the bus itself. It's not going to be super accurately proportionate, but I'm okay with that. I'm fine with making it look cartoony. I just want the characters to be visible. And I think this is a decent size for the bus. I kind of want to make it a little bit taller, maybe. I was going to say I don't want to cut off this balcony here, but I think I might have to. Go about like that. I think that's a pretty good size. I think with the bus taking up the majority of the picture, you're going to be able to see the characters inside the bus a lot clearer. So let's kind of carve out the shape of the vehicle from this space that we've mapped out for ourselves. All right, I have the bus all sketched out, and it was just as hard as you would think. I don't know what it is about cars specifically, because they're just as many shapes as like buildings or trees or mountains or people or whatever, but cars, just the worst. So difficult to draw. Don't know why. I do want to add, I was kind of thinking about it, just little windshield wipers. I think that's kind of like a funny irony to have windshield wipers on a bus that is essentially an aquarium. But anyway, now it's time to draw the little characters in the bus, and this is the part that I am the most scared of because they're going to need to be big. They're going to need to be bigger than you would think proportionately they should be, because you need to be able to see them. So it's going to be a little bit of suspension of disbelief in that aspect. This whole piece is pretty cartoony anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. What I am worried about is even if I do make them a little bigger, I'm afraid you're still not going to be able to see them. So I think first thing I want to do here is draw some like seats in the bus. I think the seats are funny too, because it's a aquarium bus. Like, what do you need seats for? But like, buses have seats, so I'm gonna put seats on the bus. I think it's funny. Okay, and then I do also want to really quick draw the interior of the bus as well. So like, that's the back window there. I'm not gonna draw the buildings behind the back window because I think that's a little overkill. And there's no way that I have the skills with microns to be able to successfully portray how it would look to look through a double-decker bus that is filled with water out onto the city beyond it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the windows, but that is it. There we are, and now we have our aquarium bus. I think this camera's sitting a little high. Come down to my level. There we go. We've got our little bus driver here. He's got his big wheel. And I think I'm just gonna draw some like really basic humanoid shapes. And then I'm gonna go in and speed through refining the shape so that you guys don't have to sit through all that. So I'm just gonna sketch in those characters. These two are my favorite, the ones that are kind of swimming. And I kind of think of this character, the one sort of in the middle of the bus, as like the main character of the piece. Just kind of looking out on the city with some childlike wonder, pressing their hands against the window of the bus. I think it's cute. Sort of basing these characters a little bit on what I remember sea monkeys to look like, the little cartoons that they had. That's kind of what I'm thinking of for our swamp monster or sea monster type character. All right, yeah, they're definitely gonna need a little bit of work, but once I get kind of the basic shapes down, I can just speed through the sketching process and just sort of refine everybody. This one's taking a picture with a camera. I'm actually wondering if I should give these guys clothes or not. Do you think that would kind of ruin the illusion of them being sea monsters? Or swamp monsters, whatever you want to call them? Some type of water monster. I'm definitely thinking of like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Shape of Water type fish person, basically. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and refine these characters off camera, do a little bit more detail work, and then I will meet you back here probably tomorrow to start on the line art on this piece, okay? See you in a bit. All right, I am back with the finished sketch. It's the same night, look at me go. But I only have a little bit of time to get some recording done, so I think I could maybe outline or ink the bus itself, but I won't have any time for the background tonight. Either way, at least I'm getting something done. Yeah, but I got all my little swamp monsters in there. I think they're absolutely adorable. I added the little like undersides of the water lilies and some fish in there as well. And I think what I'm gonna do is everything, the bus for sure is going to be the black outline. The creatures inside the bus are also going to be the black outline, but the water line that I kind of have at the top of the bus, I wanna do that in gray to kind of not take away too much from the characters inside the bus. I also want to do the back windows here. Those are also going to be in gray because they're supposed to be a little bit obscured by the water. So I think the best thing to do is just start, as always. This is always the most nerve-wracking part because I'm so scared of ruining my sketch, but you just gotta go for it. Honestly, I've made so many mistakes on so many of these Inktober's so far, and it hasn't ruined any of them. It's just mistakes I've made along the way that give each piece a little bit of character, that's all. I meant to put something here, like the bus route or something. I'm trying to think of like a punny joke route name that I can put in there, or something clever that has to do with swamp monsters. Cars just make me so nervous because I honestly know nothing about them, and there's so many like literal moving parts that I'm just afraid I'm gonna do something so very wrong. And they're also just really hard to kind of keep like looking realistic. Obviously this is not a very realistic bus because it's got an aquarium inside of it, but it's so easy to over cartoonify cars and just make them look a little silly. And even though this is very cartoony, I don't want it looking like the Magic School Bus. Ooh, that straight line. Oh my goodness, that was stressful. Get all the long straight lines out of the way. Ooh, see, like right there. I should have left room for a bumper right there and I didn't. I'll just do something like that. Luckily, I don't have to worry about any of the subjects overlapping the lines of the vehicle because they're all inside the vehicle. I did also try to make the bus in the sketches kind of look as aquatic as possible. Like obviously I bubbled out the windows a little bit. I gave the face of the car very round features. I don't know, just trying to tie this into the characters as much as possible. While I was waiting for the cameras to charge, I did do a rough edit on the footage that I already have, and it's already up to like 30 minutes. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to speed through the rest of the line art for the bus, and I will come back probably tomorrow to chat with you guys again and start doing the sea creatures inside. So I will see you all later. Alrighty folks, we are back with this Inktober piece. The car is all done, the little like double-decker bus. I am kind of second guessing myself on what I want to do with the characters, because initially I wanted to draw the characters with the black micron, as I've been doing for every single piece so far, but I kind of feel like with the bus and the characters inside the bus more specifically being obscured by the water, it might be a good idea to do them in the dark gray micron, because it's pretty close to black, so it's not like they're going to be completely obscured. And then maybe do the stuff like in the far background, the windows, the water, the lily pads, do that in the lighter gray micron. I'm thinking about it. I think it might be a good idea. Also, I need to figure out what to put like the bus number and the license plate, do something punny with those. Other than that, I think the streets are going to be the dark gray again, the sidewalks. Because even though I wasn't entirely sold on it with the Headless Horseman piece, I do want all the pieces in this series to kind of be matching. So because I sandwiched the foreground and background in the Headless Horseman piece to make that forced perspective, I want to keep doing that. I don't know though, this one's tough. I don't know where I'm going to utilize the light gray in this one aside from the interior of the bus. Because I think the buildings are close enough that they should still be in the dark gray. And I don't want to like switch halfway through, like do the buildings on this side in the dark gray and the buildings on this side in the light gray. I feel like that's gonna cut them off a little weird, because the light gray and the dark gray are significantly different. So if I do half the buildings in the dark gray and half the buildings in the light gray, you're definitely gonna be able to notice when the color change happens. I suppose I could do some clouds or something in the background just to use up that light gray, and because this space up here is rather empty, that might actually be not a bad idea. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I want the characters in the bus to be done in that dark gray. So I think that's the next thing I'm gonna do, is I'm going to draw all the characters in the bus seats, all of that in the dark gray color. Basically, I'm just gonna continue working on the bus. Pull out our microns here once again. I've got my dark gray and my light gray, and we are ready to go. I do have to keep reminding myself, because I forgot to do this on the spa piece, that I need to shade the underside of the bus so that it has a bit of a shadow. Because I didn't do that for the bed on the mummy spa day piece, and I ended up regretting it, so I just have to remind myself to remember that. But for now, let's get a start on these cuties. I tried to put as many aquatic features on these creatures as I could without completely obscuring the like humanoid aspect of them. So I gave them fins instead of ears. I didn't put hair on any of them. Obviously I gave them that tail, and I tried to include some sort of finned feet when they were visible. And then I did the little like fins along the ridges of the elbow too. I also tried to give them gills, which you can kind of see on the bus driver, but I'm not entirely sure how well that's gonna come across because it is so small. I also kind of realized halfway through sketching the characters that this doesn't really look like they're on vacation. This girl definitely looks like she's in a sightseeing bus because obviously she's holding up a camera. I think it's this guy. I think it's this guy throwing everybody off because he's just reading a newspaper and not paying attention to everything outside the bus. But I like it. I like that he's reading a newspaper. I find it funny, so I don't want to get rid of him. Do you guys ever, and this might get completely cut out depending on how long this video is, but this is just one of those non sequitur thoughts that I keep having. Do you ever listen to something or watch something while you're drawing? For me, I have to listen to something because if I have a visual, I get really distracted, but I like listening to podcasts usually. But do you guys ever listen to something or watch something while you're drawing, and then the piece that you're drawing kind of becomes like a physical reminder of what you've listened to? Like I'm outlining these characters right now and I'm remembering moments from the podcast that I was listening to while I was drawing these characters. And that happens a lot for me because I'm always listening to something while I'm drawing, unless of course I'm recording. So whether it's like YouTube videos or podcasts or music or TV shows that I'm listening to, it always makes a little bit of a connection with the piece that I'm drawing. So sometimes if I'll listen to that podcast again, I'll remember the piece that I was drawing when I listened to it the first time. Or if I'm continuing working on a piece, I will remember bits of the podcast that I was listening to when I started the sketch. Stuff like that. That just happens all the time for me, and I wonder if anyone else has the same experience. You know what I should have done? I should have done like a sign or something on the bus that says bus tours or swamp tours or something like that. Maybe I can do that on the sign here, just to make it a little more obvious that this is a tour bus, a sightseeing bus. What's a punny name for a swamp monster tour company? I'll think about it a little more. I can usually come up with something pretty punny. It just takes me a while. Scuba tours? Fright seeing bus? That's too big. Oh, I could just do fright seeing. Kind of feel like there needs to be another character right here. Let me just doodle someone in real quick. Oh, you know what some of these characters need is those cheesy, like, I Heart New York style souvenirs. I just want them to look a little bit more like they're on vacation. The problem is I don't know what city they're visiting, so it's kind of hard to give them merch for the tourism. I'm just imagining those like big top hats that you get, or you used to get in London that had the British flag on them, but I don't know what to put on this one. I'll just do I Heart, and then I'll kind of obscure the city name a bit. There, I put I Heart ST for swamp tours. Now they look like tourists. I think that actually made a big difference in looking like a tour bus versus looking like a commuter bus. Ooh, what if this guy's reading like a city map or something instead of the newspaper? That might make it look a little more touristy. And he doesn't look as bored. Put like a random skyline on here. Because he was definitely supposed to be a commuter at first, but now that I'm thinking about it, why would a commuter take a tour bus? So we'll just make him reading a city map. I'm actually forgetting to draw the fins on these guys. I really wanted to give these creatures webbed fingers, but their hands are so small that I don't think it would come across that well if I attempted it. But I think they're pretty swampy. It's pretty obvious that they're like aquatic creatures. This one's holding a coffee cup, and the temptation to just make it a Starbucks coffee cup because Starbucks is already like aquatic themed. But that would be putting way too much detail into a tiny little cup. But we'll know. We'll know it's Starbucks. I will say, I'm actually pretty pleased with the size of how everything turned out. I was definitely afraid the characters were gonna be way too small, and they are small, but you can definitely still tell what's going on in the bus. You can see all the individual characters. You can kind of tell what some of them are doing. I'm happy with it. I was definitely freaking out earlier that they were gonna be too small. Drawing all these little sea creatures is definitely making me want to go back to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which if you have not gone, I suggest taking a trip to California just to visit Monterey. I might be a little biased, but it's one of my favorite places in the world, and the aquarium is gorgeous. Definitely a sight to see. All right, there's all our little characters. I'm definitely gonna speed through coloring in the rest of the bus, and then I'll probably just do the background in the same go, and I will just meet you guys back here to start the shading, okay? See you in a bit. All right, I've got the inking all done. I did forget, apparently, to ink in this little guy's hat, so I'm just gonna do that real quick. I've also done the labels for the tour bus. The license plate says Sea Monster, CMNSTR, and then I just put Swamp Tours on the, like, bus number screen, whatever that is. I really wanted to do Fright Seeing, but it was way too big. I could not fit that on there, so Swamp Tours it is. Just give this guy his hat back. There we go. And then I think I have a micron pen that's a little bit thinner. Oh, and actually, does it need to be in black? I guess it does need to be in black. I noticed while drawing this that the only black I have on this piece is just the bus, not even the characters inside the bus. And I'm kind of regretting that a little, but at the same time, I think it does look kind of cool because the gray micron does make them look a little obscured. I'm actually gonna take my smallest micron. Do you see that? Do you see how tiny that is? I'll do the one I've been using for comparison. I don't know if you can see the tips on those, but this one's tiny. And I'm just gonna ink the lettering in real quick. The license plate looks really wonky, but I'm sure it's fine. That's something else that I've always wanted to get a lot better at is lettering, like hand-drawn lettering. I think it looks so cool, but it's so difficult. Actually, why am I putting this away? I need to get the brush pens out. Gotta get my 2 brush pens and my big boy to outline the bust, because I still want to do that, just to separate it from the background a little bit. I'll go ahead and do that real quick while I'm waiting for the lettering to dry. The downside of this massive micron is it's actually quite difficult to see where you're drawing, so you end up, or at least someone as inexperienced as me is going to end up with these gaps because I can't see where the pen is marking until after it's already gone over it. So you just gotta be a little careful of those, a little more cognizant. And actually what I've been doing to fix these last couple pieces is I take a smaller micron and kind of fill in those gaps, just so that they look a little bit less like a mistake. All right, well there's our little bus. Oh, and I actually did end up kind of sketching in the buildings behind, but just like very, very lightly and very wobbly. Like you can definitely see right here, this window's got a bit of a wobble to it. And I did that so that it still kind of looks like you're looking through water. So hopefully that comes across. I really think it added a good bit of detail to the piece that was needed. And before I did that, it looked really, really empty. It looked like the bus was kind of passing through a void, which is not what I wanted. Okay, well now it's time for coloring. There's a few places on this that are gonna be obvious. The tires, of course, are gonna be the darker gray. I just remembered I have to erase the lettering. We've got the sides of the buildings that I'm probably gonna do in the lighter gray because I don't want them to be contrasted too much. So let's start with those things. I'm gonna try and be a little more haphazard with my brush strokes because I've found that doing the uniform brush strokes actually makes the path that you're working on a lot more visible. And if you're a little more haphazard with it, it kind of blends out a bit more smoothly. And I think that's a combination of going faster, so you're going over the ink a little more quickly before it dries, giving it a chance to kind of blend together. And the fact that if you don't have those uniform brush strokes, it's kind of harder for your brain to see that there's any errors in there. Does that make sense? It's like when you're coloring and you color in circles to make sure that there's no straight lines. Same sort of concept is what I'm going for. And then I think I'm just gonna go ahead and color in any other parts of the car that are supposed to be this darker color. So the windshield wipers, maybe the mirrors. I'm actually so glad I bought these pens on accident. Every single Inktober, when it gets to this stage and I realize that I'm having so much fun coloring everything in with these gray microns, I'm just so grateful I accidentally bought them. Because it makes it feel more purposeful, I think. It makes it feel like more of a completed piece than if I were to just do a black outline. Debating if I want to color in the entirety of the bus. If I do, it's going to be with the lighter pen, and then just leave the accents white. So like the headlights I would leave white, the advertisement on the side here, or if maybe that's too much. What if I just did the shell? What if I just did like the door remains white, this part remains white, and then everything that is sort of encasing the glass I do with the light gray? I like that idea, actually. I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna switch back and forth from light gray and dark gray on this one because I'm kind of just experimenting with what goes where. Not entirely sure yet if I want to color any of the interior of the bus or if I just want to kind of leave that blank and then color the characters so that they stand out a little bit more. These are just some ideas that I'm having. I also know I need to stop rambling because I'm trying to make these videos shorter, trust me. Yeah, I like that. It outlines the windows, kind of makes it a little more obvious what you're seeing. I think that turned out real good. And then just throw in some details here. There we go. I like it. Yeah, I think that makes the bus look a lot more like it's in a three-dimensional space even. All right, I think I'm just gonna speed through the rest of the coloring because I know I've been rambling a lot today and I know that usually means much longer video. So I will meet you guys back here for the final shading part and then we'll finish up. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so here's the thing. This is probably the messiest piece I've done so far. And I think that is resulting from the fact that the characters are not outlined in black, and it's making me feel like the whole piece can just be a little bit sloppy. Here's something I absolutely 100% do not want to do because I'm positive that it's going to turn out awful, but at the same time, if I don't do it, I think this piece is going to be missing a lot of dimension, and that is color the road. I don't want to do it. I think it's gonna look awful, but I know what I need to do. I need to put a shadow under the bus, and I think that means that I'm going to have to color the road. Because here's the thing. There is no dark gray in this piece right now, aside from the little bit that's on the bench over here and the stuff that I put on the bus. So the tires, the mirrors, the steering wheel, stuff like that. So I think I have to do the shadow of the bus in the dark gray and then color the rest of the street in the light gray. How does that sound? Oh, it doesn't sound good. It's such a huge area and I'm so scared of screwing it up. The other thing is, do I just do the whole road in the dark gray? Would that make it better? And then maybe go over it again to do the shadow of the bus? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the streaks in the markers show up better on the dark gray as well. So that's also why I'm hesitant. Let's do this. Let's do the shadow of the bus first in the dark gray, and then we'll see what we want to do about the rest of the street. Because I know I want to do the shadow in the dark gray. Whether or not I want to color the street in the dark gray or the light gray is what I'm still debating. So, jump right in. Okay. All right, well, so far so good. Pretty easy. Yeah, I feel like the dark gray really is very streaky on larger areas, and that's what I'm scared of. I feel like it needs to be the light gray. I feel like this is just gonna have to be a piece that doesn't have a lot of dark gray in it, and I need to be fine with that. Because I think the dark gray is going to make this area of the piece way too dark, and there's gonna be a lot of streakiness too. So, going in with the light gray. Ooh, something else I didn't really consider. My light gray pen has been through a lot so far, so it's getting a little worn down. I might need to go buy a new one. I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm gonna follow the road with the streaks, with the pen strokes, so that hopefully it just looks like a bunch of cars have gone past and they've kind of like worn streaks into the road. This might have been a bad idea. This pen is not, there's not as much ink in this pen as there used to be, and now there's going to be even less. Hopefully my next piece just doesn't have as much light gray in it, and it'll even things out. I'll tell you what though, I do like the contrast of the shadow with the dark gray on the light gray. I think that looks very good. Yeah, oof, I don't know. But it really needed to be done. There's no way I could have just left this road white and said this was a finished piece. It does kind of look like a child colored it in, I'm gonna be honest. It definitely looks messy and it looks streaky, but I'm hoping that it looks purposefully messy and streaky. That's all I can hope for. I think it was the Headless Horseman piece that ruined my pen. I think it was trying to do the leaves in the oak tree. All right. In the end, I'm actually glad I didn't use the dark gray pen because I know that one streaks a lot, whereas the streaks on this pen look a little cleaner, a little more purposeful. I lost my cap. So I am glad that I made this decision. I knew I had to color the street in. I knew it had to be done. I'm just, not happy about it. But now that we're here, time to get that last little bit of shading in. And I'm just gonna kind of go along and shade any bit that's white. I'm gonna use the gray pen to shade, the light gray pen, and then any bit that is already light gray, I'm gonna go in with the darker pen to shade. There's not much shading that needs to be done since I kind of did a lot of it with just going over stuff with the lighter and darker pens. Like the seats here, I just went over this again with the lighter pen to get a slightly darker shade. There's a couple things that could use a little bit dimension. I did also try to go in here with the top of the water and get a little bit of like a water reflection ripple effect. I don't think it turned out that well, to be perfectly honest. Hopefully it just looks a little swampy. I can live with that, but it definitely does not look like the ripple reflections that I was trying to portray. Okay, So here's the thing. Honestly, I think this one was a bit of a stumble, but it's done. I feel like at this point, any more details I try to add is just gonna complicate things, so I'm calling it. I'm not mad at it. I'm truly not. I think it's a decent piece. I think the bust is actually very good, but I think I just got used to getting better and better with each piece, and this one I might have gotten a little too cocky with. So as of this point, I still think the Headless Horseman is my best piece. That was the last one. There's just too many things I wish I had done differently. Too many things I wish I'd done differently, too many things I wish I didn't have to do, too many mistakes were made. But in the end, you know, I do like this piece. I think it's cute. And it holds a special place in my heart for sort of being the inspiration for this Inktober series. But there she is. There's my Swamp Monster entry for Inktober. My battery is running out again on my face cam, so I'm gonna have to make this quick. If you wanna see this piece in full, you can find it on my Instagram. It's posting the same time that this video is going up. I'm also posting a speed drawing of this piece to my TikTok and YouTube shorts. You can find those right now, again, posting at the same time. If you want to see more of me, I also have a Twitch account that I live stream on every Tuesday and Friday. And if you want to support me and my content in the best way possible, you can also find me on Patreon. You can support me there for as little as $1 a month and get exclusive content for as little as $3 a month. Yeah, I think that's it. Lastly, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can find your way back here for next week's video. I'm posting new videos every Tuesday and Saturday for the month of October, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. I know it was rough. Bye!